Welcome, everyone, to the Fans of the Band Inside the Westlake Marching Band podcast. This is episode number 6. Can you believe it? That's so awesome. I'm Tanya Yadley, and I look forward to hearing what you think this week about all the information shared by our guest.
And my name is Erin Huslig, and as always, I'm sharing the disclaimer this podcast is solely for our own fun and amusement, of which we've had a lot. And
Yes,
it
we
is
have.
not sponsored by Westlake. So I want to leave a few pieces of information here. We had a hard time recording this because we couldn't stop laughing, even though it didn't really sound like it in the podcast. Tanya is a very fabulous conversationalist, and so I had commented about all of her And I am a very aggressive listener where I forget to talk. And so we were trying to trade places, and maybe that's not the best idea.
It was pretty funny, though. And you have to say, I did my best to really, really kind of make some positive changes.
And I did my best to try to remember to talk. So if you ever wonder what we cut out, lots of times it's just Tanya saying, Erin, would you like to ask a question? Oh, yes, I would. So in this show, we have referenced, Mr. Pearson asked us to watch videos so he could reference a couple of specific band shows and their props. I'm going to post links to those shows in the show description, but if you don't want to watch those and you want to know what we're talking about, in one of them, one of the band members is levitating.
Oh, it was fascinating how they did that.
It was very, very cool.
Right?
So I thought you might want to go back and see what that was about.
I think you should. The other thing that we noticed was our guest also mentioned MacGyver. And I'm curious. I know who MacGyver is because I'm of a certain age. And I'm wondering, listener, do you know who MacGyver is? Mr. Pearson seems to be the MacGyver of the Westlake Marching Band. So listen and enjoy this week's episode.
We are once again in the band office with band director John Pearson, who is in charge of everything you could ever imagine.
That sounds pretty awesome. I can't wait to hear all about that. So, Mr. Pearson, we're going to start with our rapid fire questions. And I feel like this is the lucky podcast. You are the lucky winner. We're going to get through this so quickly. Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Where did you go to high school?
Aiden Grifton High School in North Carolina.
Did you march?
I did march all 4 years.
What was your instrument?
I played saxophone.
Do you still play?
Some, very little now, but a little.
Okay. Where'd you go to college?
I went to East Carolina University for my undergrad and my master's.
And did you march there?
2 years I had to for undergrad.
What was your first teaching job?
I taught middle school band at Spate Middle School in Wilson, North Carolina.
And how long have you been at Westlake High School?
This is my 4th year, so 3 years, and I'm in the process of my 4th now.
Are you the one who designs the props?
I do not.
Aha, I wonder who it is. And that's the end of our rapid fire questions.
That was the biggest success yet.
I know,
All
right?
right.
Good job.
All right.
Good
We
job.
did it. We did
Fantastic.
it.
So,
Before we go, I want to
Yes.
know how you got to Texas.
yes.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So I taught for 12 years in North Carolina. I did middle school. Ironically, I'd never wanted to be a high school band director.
Okay.
I was the guy in college. All my friends marched drum corps, and they wanted to be high school band directors. And I was like, it takes way too much time. I don't want to do that. And part of it is because my experience as a high school band member, I went to a tiny high school, so I didn't really enjoy high school band. I love jazz band, and I did marching band because that was required. So I got my first job while I was working on my master's degree. I was teaching middle school, and I was working on grad school stuff online. And one of my best friends was an assistant band director, which is very uncommon in most places outside of Texas. And his head director was leaving, and he's like, I want you to come work with me at the high school. And I was like, no way, not doing it. And he was like, just come watch the band rehearse. And I was like, okay. So I came and I checked out a marching band rehearsal in like mid-October where they were pretty much done with their show. And it was like watching a drum corps because I had never experienced that. My band didn't do anything like that, and they did BOA and stuff, and I didn't really know anything about BOA at that time. And so I was like, okay, this is really cool. I could do this. So I came and started working there. That was Clayton High School, and I started there in 2006 and never looked back, and I've been teaching high school ever since. So fast forward 2011, 2012, some budget cuts. They took the assistant band director position at the school away, and I was the head director at that time, and I had an assistant. So then I was running a program that had about 140 kids in it. We had 2 color guards, like 2 winter guard, 2 jazz band, a percussion ensemble, doing WGI, BOA, all of that stuff, 2 concert bands, and I was running it all by myself.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy. Now I have 2 kids, and so my son was born in 2012, and my daughter was born in 2014. And so at that point, I was just so burned out. I started looking for private sector jobs, but every time that I would get like a job interview or get to something, it just didn't feel right. I was like, I like what I do, but I don't like what I do.
I just want to do it less.
Yeah, it was crazy. So one of my friends had moved to Texas a few years before, and he kept telling me, like, you should come to Texas. You should come to Texas. It's so different. And so I finally was like, okay, I need to change it up. And like, so my wife and I are both born and raised in North Carolina. And I came home and I was like, I want to move to Texas and go do band in Texas. And she was like, okay. And so I started applying for jobs. I got a job at Belton High School in 2016, and we moved, and we were there for 3 years. And then I got a job at Dripping Springs in 2019 to get to Austin, which was my end goal. And then when the job at Westlake came open in 2022, I decided to apply because of the jazz band primarily, but the band program was great. And here I am.
Well, we're glad you're here.
You do not design the props.
I do not. So Mr. Turpin kind of alluded in his episode to like the way we do it here at Westlake. We have a design team, and so Miss Rhodes, our show coordinator, is the kind of overseer of every aspect of the show. She's the one that kind of puts the rubber stamp on everything.
So even the props, like she has conceptually thought about like what kind of props will be on the field. Wow.
If you look at our show this year in particular, but in the past couple of years, since we've had Jody around, this is our 3rd show, like every detail, like the drum major uniforms match the color guard uniforms. The shade of red is the same. And like in the props,
I have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I was informed that is orange. My husband, being the designer, said that is not even close to red. It is orange.
It's
So
orangish
the
red,
color,
I'll say.
let's say it's
Yeah.
orange.
I just want to put that out there
That's
for
valid.
him.
I'll say, okay, we'll say orange. That's
I
fine.
do agree because the picture you sent me made me, I saw orange.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but so
Anyhow.
all of it all goes through edits though. So like they go back and forth, and all of that stuff is put together like on a display. And when they come to us to reveal to us like what show they want us to do, they have like examples. So like last year when we had the tarps on the field and all that stuff, like those were all designed, and all those shades of blue and all that stuff that was in the show last year, it was all coordinated to match the prop uprights with the floor or the little tarps and all that. So this year, same thing. The grays and the greens and the colors that are in the jungle leaves match the leaves on the front stage and all that stuff. So it's all part of her package that she brings to the program.
So all of the props this year look like they may be repurposed from last year.
Yes.
And she made that plan, like we're going to have the same shape as the lotus flower, but it's going to be green with the lion on it.
Yeah, they're leopards this year to match the jungle theme. But yeah, like we built the props last year to make the lotus, and it was a pretty big investment of time and resources to make them. So we decided we wanted to try to find a way to use them more than once so that we could get more out of it for the money that we spent on them. So she was like, well, yeah, we can make that work. So we talked to her about like the upright part of the show, the panels that are there. This is the 3rd year we've used those. And so we used them the Lonely People year, and they flipped around and twist and turn. And then last year we used them again, and this year we're using them, but they're grouped in 3s, and they stay like in the same place the whole time. They don't move. So we restructured how they look on the field to make them have a new element to them, but because of the resources we had to spend to create them. We try to reuse stuff as much as we can. So, but it's not like that every year, you know.
And now I want to know a little bit more about the rules. You mentioned that there are some kind of rules around the props
Yeah, it's
that you
pretty.
wanted to tell us about.
BOA, it has some specific rules. First, like anywhere you go, obviously the stadium you're in, whether it's a high school stadium or like the Alamo Dome, we go to San Antonio every year, you have to follow the facilities rules. Like, you know, whether they're having a monster truck rally or they're having a marching band show, you can't like set stuff on fire inside the building, that kind of stuff. So there's rules that trump even BOA. Like, they won't let you host the show if you don't follow their facility rules. Pyrotechnics is one thing that is like a no-no in marching band for obvious reasons. But like, let's say like somebody wanted to do a show about bubbles. They couldn't go out with a bubble gun and spray bubbles all over the place because of the tacky residue. It could make it slippery. People could get hurt.
That makes sense.
You know, that kind of thing. But height and stuff is a big thing. Safety. So depending on the purpose of the props in the show and the way they're utilized, they have sometimes performers get on them or guard members and things like that. And so with BOA in particular, they have a height rule that a prop cannot exceed 12 feet.
That would be a giant cake.
That would be, wouldn't that be awesome though? Can you imagine? I could just see it.
Yes. So, and you've seen different shows like where the people are on the props, and one of BOA's rules is if a performer is more than 6 feet off the ground, because you gotta have a 12-foot prop. If they're 6 feet above the ground, they have to be attached or it has to have safety rails, and so that's obviously for safety reasons. But then the designers were talking about Jody, like, you want to design this cool show, you don't want it like a staircase, like if you're not doing a show about a staircase and have some railing going up. So you have to be very careful with the design of it for it to have the aesthetic you're going for, but meet the requirements. And if you show up to a show and your props aren't, built properly, then they'll say, no, you can't use that. Or if you try to put a kid off the ground more than 6 feet, like, you'll get a warning, and they'll tell you, like, if you do that again, like, you're gonna get a penalty, or like they may like disqualify you from the show or stuff like that. That's happened.
Does somebody come around and like actually measure if they think that something maybe is too tall or too large? Or
I don't know. I've never seen anybody like in the parking lot with a tape measure per se, but there is like Mr. Fugate was talking about last week, how there's like the different judges. One of the officials, he's not a judge, is a timing and penalty. So part of the whole thing with props is getting on the field. You have a set amount of time. You have to get everything set up, and then you get a performance time, and then you have to get off. And the rules are a little different between BOA and UIL. But there's a person with a watch, and from the first time when they say go and you cross the goal line, you're on the clock. And if you take too long, you get a penalty. Or if you don't get off in time, you get a penalty. So there are people that do that. And if they note things like that, like, oh, this prop, the wheels messed up, and like it drug across the field and it messed up the turf. If something's damaged, then they're going to come to you and say, like, you're responsible for this because your props weren't right and your wheel locked up. And that's happened. There's been like damages. And,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They charge the school for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So a penalty, how is that assigned? How much is that a penalty worth?
If it's a timing penalty, it's like a ratio. So like, for your show, like you get in UIL, we have to have 8 minutes, right? So UIL is very cut and dry. Like if you go 8 minutes and 1 second, you're disqualified. So like at region marching contest, if we go over, we don't advance to area. That ends our trip or possibility even to go to state and make state finals, like for performance time. So at UIL, you get 5 whole minutes to set up, which is a long time. It doesn't feel like a long time. We say 5 minutes and all the stuff that has to get on the field, but the kids are well trained how to do that. BOA is a 4-minute setup. And so it's a formula, and you've heard them before. They say joining us from, that starts at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and they have a 45-second script that they read. And so when you hear that guy start talking, like you have 45 seconds until your performance time starts. And then they start that. And with BOA, they give you kind of a holistic look at it. Like, setup, performance, and off the field can't last more than 12 minutes total. Like 4 minutes setup is pretty standard. Some people like to do a pre-show, so they'll set up faster that and start the show before the announcement, that kind of thing. But then when you get done at the end, you have 2 minutes to get off. That's it. Like, so when you play your last note, the timing and penalty guys, like, that's when their performance ended. So they're scoring you. You're talking the penalty side of it. You have to perform a minimum of like 6 minutes, a maximum of 8 minutes for UIL, 9 minutes for BOA. And then you have 2 minutes to get off. So he's got like a clipboard with multiple stopwatches on it. When you started getting on the field, when you played your first note, when you stop playing, he stops that watch, and that's your performance time. And then he starts another stopwatch. That's how long you have to get off the field. And so, like,
I did not know any of that.
Yeah, and
that's crazy.
And it's
right?
like if you're under time, like for every 10 seconds short you are, that's like a tenth of a point. So if you're like or 30 seconds short, that's 0.3 of a point. And same thing, if you go over, you can get penalties like that. BOA is also, it's a big one too, because we'll talk more about the particulars of props, but we have chaperones and we have people that help move percussion equipment, and we have the color guard, and we have all these people get on the field. You get the badges, and BOA gives you 25 field passes, and the directors get theirs. There's 6 director badges, and then you can buy 10 additional maximum.
So no more than 35 people helping.
So if you want to go build like, the Grand Central Station and it has 8,000 pieces on your prop set, you have 35 people plus the kids, of course. But I'm saying, like, that's all part of this whole thing. Like, what can we do? How can we do it in enough time to be set up for the show to start on time? And can we get it off the field in 2 minutes? And then once it's off the field, how are we going to get it to and from the show? Is it going to take another 35 people to disassemble it? Can we disassemble it in less than an hour? This
Will
whole
it fold
process
into the right shape to fit on the truck?
Yeah, all of those things are all part of from beginning to end. Like when the designer goes, we want to make this your prop, and we're like, okay, now let's talk about how that works. How can we make it work? What kind of budget do we have? That kind of stuff.
Have you ever seen where maybe a band has a volunteer, a parent, an adult who has taken longer or caused the band to be penalized coming off the field?
I don't know if I'll say like a volunteer. I have seen bands get penalties, yes.
Oh, that sucked to be that parent.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I could just imagine that being me, and I would feel so horrible.
Your foot is on the...
Yeah,
right?
That's normally you'll see most bands like Mr. Turpin or me or whatever at Westlake is kind of at the back, and we know how long we have, and we're like, okay, guys, you got 20 more seconds. You just got to get a little bit further, and like when I say the timing, like get on and off, like between the goal line, like when you cross the 0-yard line, like if you're scoring a touchdown in football, that's where. So when you're exiting the field, you don't have to be like out the stadium or through the tunnel. You just got to get everybody in the end zone. And if everybody crosses the 0 in under 2 minutes, then it's like, yay, we made it,
You get the touchdown symbol.
But there have been more than one instances where there are people like running and people are going, get off the field. Like it's like, we got to go, because if you get the penalty and you go over, like it could be the difference between making finals or like
going home,
UIL being literally disqualified, because they don't just do penalties. It's like, sorry, you went over.
This is going to make it so much more exciting to watch this year.
I think when we do watch and they do make the time, we should stand up and go, touchdown.
That's right.
Or maybe not touchdown. We'd have to come up with a different word, but I feel like we need to do that
we'll work on that
in celebration.
Well, we devote part of our practice time to it too. So like, this past week was our first show.
I want to come to that rehearsal.
Yeah,
I do too.
So last Wednesday, which was like, 3 days before our first contest, we had the parent volunteers that were going to be there at the show up. And like I went over like kind of like a safety, this is how we move this, because some of them have never been to freshman parents, never been to anything like this, and talking through the timing, and you can't go until we say, and you have to go fast when we say, and when we say stop no matter what, there's a reason, that kind of stuff. Just teaching them how to push the props, where they can and can't touch them, because like those props look giant, but the big, we call them kitty props this year because they have the leopards on them. They're made out of foam. I mean, it's got like a metal spine, but it's foam. So if you grab it in the wrong place, you could literally like rip half of it off. So teaching them how to maneuver them and what not to do, and be careful turning a corner so they don't damage the foam, stuff like that. But so on Wednesday, the last hour of rehearsal, we practiced lining up in the end zone like we were getting ready to take the field. And Mr. Turpin was like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And we set up and we did the clock. And at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, we started the script. And then we did a run through. And then afterwards, we had to get everything and get off the other end of the field inside of 2 minutes so that everybody knew what that felt like. And there was no like stress about it. And now last year was stressful because we had to get the floors out. And then we had to put those huge giant Lotus props on top of the floors. And then when the show was over, we couldn't get the floor up until the Lotus was off the floor. And then the kids had to fold it up and carry it. And I mean, we
Those
struggled.
are pretty heavy too, aren't they?
The tarps, they're not as heavy as like a winter guard floor that takes up like the whole gym because they were like 45-foot circles. But it took like a crew of like about 20 kids on each one of those floors to get them off where they could pick it up and carry it and walk.
It sounded to me like they were pretty heavy. I heard a lot about it.
It seemed like it. I mean, it seems like it would be, right?
It looked heavy.
And that, well, I mean, I'm thinking also, especially after a performance, right, where kids have given it their all, they're real tired, and then they have to haul that thing off. But
yes,
it's impressive.
And then they had to fold it back up to get it on the cart so it could go back in the truck. Like it was a whole process.
So they're made of foam. That explains. Last year, you guys did a performance, and like the one over there on whatever side of the field just plopped right over. And I was like, how did that fall over? I know it's windy, but how did it fall over? I thought they were wood.
No, they would weigh literally hundreds of pounds. I mean, because the scope, just so you get dimensions on this, if you are seeing it as a semicircle without the little cutouts that it had, it was 12 feet tall at the peak and it's 24 feet wide from end to end. So it's like if you made something that big out of wood, and it has to have legs in the back and then the weight of the vinyl on it itself. I mean, hundreds of pounds. So that's why we went the route we did. We used aluminum, which is a lighter weight metal than steel, and then we made a spine for it, and then we filled in the empty space with the construction foam. That's like the 2-inch thick construction foam. And then once that was all filled in, then we, put the vinyl over it. And yeah.
So then did you help make the props? Who makes the props once they're designed and thought out?
So we have a combination of different ones. Like this year we upgraded our stage. Last year our stage was one that we had for a while, and it was only 8 feet. It was kind of low to the ground. So we upgraded to a 12-foot stage that was like 16 inches off the ground.
But y'all built it, right? Did
Well,
y'all make it or does it?
We contracted that.
Oh, okay.
There's a guy that lives up in Round Rock that is like a former band parent that built props for schools, and he does that on the side kind of, and so he's he understands what the need is because he had a kid in band and he did that and he was a prop dad, and so there's like a whole business for that. Mr. Herr, his name is Jeff Herr, he's actually from North Carolina, and where I taught at, he lived like a few miles from where my school was, and he builds props for the entire country. Like all the big cool props you see in DCI that are metal and spin around and all that, that's Mr. Herr. He's awesome. But yeah, there's a whole world for building props out there. But so this guy in Round Rock builds props, and so it's important when you're like, because you could go to like some metal fabrication shop and say like, oh, we want to build a stage, and they're like, okay, and you get something that weighs like a car that you can't move because they're not thinking this has to be able to go up and down in a trailer and be drug across the football field and set up and torn down in 4 minutes and 2 minutes, and so he understands all the intricacies of what we're trying to do. So. But we upgraded the stage, and so it's a bigger stage and it's taller so that it helps kind of put the kids more on display. But yeah, so.
I just had a brilliant idea, Aaron. I think Mark should go ahead and design the kind of cake kind of prop
And
that we want.
We should put it out there for sale.
Yes. I think we should make it and then put it out there
If
for
you
sale.
build it, they will use it.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Somebody would buy it and use it. I promise.
I know.
But would they bring the collage of tubas up out of the middle?
I don't know. Like
That would
that'd be a
be
pretty
so
big
amazing.
cake because tubas are pretty big, and you got to be able to fit,
Yep.
enough in there for the effect.
You need
when
three
they come up.
for the effect.
Yeah.
I have it all planned.
But you have to get with Miss Rhodes and pitch your idea and see if she can make it all work. So.
We've been trying.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay.
This is related more to penalties.
Sure.
So this happened last year. If you get out on the field and one of your students barfs on the field, And they have to call in the hazmat, and it stalls the competition.
Yeah, that happened
for
at
20,
state.
30
I
minutes.
do remember that. Yes.
Was that state or was that BOA San Antonio?
It's all the same to me.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
Don't know.
That week of
were there.
shows is always crazy because it's like you're going to San Antonio like 4 times in like 6 days, it feels like. So yes, I remember exactly what you're talking about. No, that would be like a medical emergency. So they literally paused the show and they had to deal with that situation, but no penalties were assessed.
I wondered about that after. I didn't realize there were time penalties, but they were already on the field. So I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of penalty.
Yeah.
But I was really shocked that they had bodily fluids and there were people out there ungloved.
Yeah, it was just we were there watching. We were down. It was almost right in front of where our band was sitting where it happened. I mean, I felt bad for the kid too, and it's a weird situation. You just got to deal with it. And
Yeah.
their band was there like waiting and couldn't start. It was weird.
I don't think they took that training that all educators have to take every
The
year.
vector training.
You know?
Oh, the vector training.
Is there anything else prop related that we need to know?
Well, yeah, I mean, like we were saying, like it's a through thread for me. Like, so I get Jody's design. And this year it was like, I wasn't real stressed out because I was like, oh, it's everything we've already done. It's like the only thing we had to figure out was how to attach the group of 3 together, which was pretty easy. But the big thing, just like if we're going to go with a new prop or something like that, everything is all based on how it fits in the truck, how fast we can put it together and take it apart, So like there are ideas that come about in the process. And like, again, how we do it at Westlake is not like it is everywhere else where, somebody will have an idea. We're going to do a show about mountains and then they want a mountain range in the back. And then they go talk to their band dads and say, what can we do? And they decide, are we going to make this out of styrofoam? Or are we going to make it out of, whatever, that kind of stuff. But then it's about the idea is like, okay, we're going to be transporting this in a box truck. So it's got to either fold in half or it's got to break down into so many pieces. And then it's like, do we have space for that? Oh, now we need another box truck. Now we need a driver for the box truck. Now we got to pay rental and gas. All those different factors are all part of it. So sometimes when we have ideas, they don't always come to fruition because it's like, this is just not feasible. So, but everybody finds a way to get stuff done. The activity has evolved. And just like we've talked about with everything, the pageantry side of it, props have kind of entered that world of creating more than just a band playing on a field now. But, the other part of it, I guess, is that I would say is that, which is not related to the packing and the budgeting and all that, is what the purpose of the props is. It's not the same for everybody. The examples I was referencing, like for me, when I think about the most effective use of props, it doesn't have to be like the whole field covered and stuff and like the field just completely engulfed in all these giant shapes or whatever. The effectiveness of it is how you use it, So like the paranormal show for Tarpon in 2010, I was there and saw that live the first time. It totally, you were talking when you were talking to Mr. Feud about how like the flags come out and you don't even know what happened and this color comes, and it was like that. You're watching this thing and the woodwinds are coming all down by the bed and she's laying there and all of a sudden she starts moving, and it was like.
So when you were watching that,
Yes,
I mean, it was totally neat, like watching it, like, ooh, wondering, what happened there. But was your brain thinking about how they did that?
Afterwards, like when I
Okay.
watched it at first, I was just literally in
Right?
shock, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, because it, like, the whole idea of the sci-fi thing and like Poltergeist or whatever, the way that show was. But yeah, afterwards, and I was like, how'd they do that? Like, who triggered that? Was there some switch somewhere that I didn't see? And like when they were setting up, you don't see any of that on the video. When they were setting up, the whole thing just came out as one, and it just looked like a bed. Like, how did they hide it? Because that's part of it. The value of it is that you don't see it, you don't know what's coming, and then you're like, oh, and what it adds to the show, because the way they stage the whole band around it, and then the soloist is there, and so that part of it. The other one that was like another pivotal moment for me with props was like the Kennesaw show, the gift, and like that was so simple, and they used negative space and then actually physically used the color guard to make a bow, and they were playing simple gifts and the whole thing tied together, and the little quote at the end about that's why they call it a present, and then all these ribbons come and like they literally turned the whole football field into a present. I was like, this is super cool, like, and it doesn't have to be like giant props like that. The whole show, you never knew those were there. They're just on the sideline, these little things, and all of a sudden at the end it's like ties it together. So like it's very effective the way that they're used. And I remember those, like those, that shows my age too, because those are like those are from the '07 or '08 and 2010. So I've been doing it for a while. But watching the stuff change, it's been pretty cool to see the pageantry and the way it's used. Like Mr. Fugit referenced Jackson Academy also, and I know Jackson Academy. They would use props to make the field smaller. The purpose of them wasn't to have this cool thing that like lifts somebody up or like that. They wanted you to not look at anything outside of the props, and you're focusing on it. Took your mind off the fact that this band only has 30 people total in it, and so like that part of it is useful. And to be honest, we do that at Westlake. I mean, one of your questions is Mr. Turpin was like, how do we compete with Vandegrift and these other bands that have 350 kids? Well, we don't have that many. The field doesn't look as big when you have all that stuff out there, and especially when you like hide the kids behind it, and then when they come out, it makes us look bigger, and that's part of the mystique of it. Like we're filling up the field, and you see the guard taking up all the space with the props, and like we're using every inch of the field, just not the same way as everybody else. So why we use props and what we use them for is different for different programs, so, but they're very cool.
I was sad Saturday night. One of the bands had this giant orange ball.
Oh, you sent me a picture of that.
I don't know what it was. They never used it. I didn't even notice it until it was leaving the field. And I'm like, what was that orange ball? And then McCallum, they did a great job with shrinking their field. And after he had talked about that, it was very obvious what they had done. And I loved their show anyway, though.
With the way our schedule was, I didn't get to see anybody else perform, but I did see the big ball in the parking lot and the prop trucks and all that. So there was all kinds of different props.
You got as much out of it as I did.
So, but that is a big part of it. Like some people, like they put props out as like a status symbol, or like, look, we can build this ginormous thing, but then they don't really utilize it in the show, and it doesn't have a purpose. And maybe we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that is something they haven't finished their show, so maybe they're going to end, and it's going to involve
I hope so, because it would be great if it opened like a giant flower.
And then a tuba came out of the middle.
That's right.
And onto the field.
The theme here with the opening and the tubas. Yeah, so.
We love the tubas.
Yeah.
We do.
Our tubas are awesome, so I get behind that.
I want to know this question, Aaron. What does this mean?
I didn't know what that meant either, but a parent asked me if I'd ask you about the hip cape.
What does that mean? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I mean, it's uniforms, but yeah. So like on our uniform, our new uniforms we got last year are super cool, and there was a lot of thought that went into it. There are several parts of the uniform that come off and are interchangeable.
Oh, so is the hip cape like
Yes.
what looks like almost like a half skirt or whatever?
Yes.
Aha, I didn't realize that's what it was called.
So
Okay.
like we have a thing that like is like a shoulder cape that can come on and off, and like with the way that all these bands are costuming now, or like they wear stuff that's thematically part of the show. So this year we have like a leopard print look that's supposed to tie into the jungle. So their performance top that goes like underneath the jacket has that on it, and on the hip cape it has that leopard print. And there's actually a part of the show. We're actually going to be adding some more in as we finish part 3 and go back and do some more choreo. But like at the very beginning of the show, when they come out from behind the props, a lot of them are like holding their capes and they flash the leopard print and stuff. So we use it for choreo stuff like Mr. Byers and Conrad and those guys that do that. We use the hip drop as part of the uniform for visuals, but it also has is just part of the uniform.
Please tell me that someone is going to flash some like claws.
I don't know.
Awesome. Just
That's right.
right?
Like Wolverine hands.
Just a little, that would be so interesting if just like one or two people had it, and then
It's not my department, so like you have to go
Too
back to
bad.
Mr. Byers for that one because he's the Vish guy. So
I'm going to have to ask him next time I see him.
So every time they perform in uniform, they have inspections.
yes,
Is that under you?
yes. Well, Mr. Byers and I kind of do it together. We have like a Google form, and it changes week to week or performance to performance. So we have like our what we call our pep uniform that we wear early season while it's really hot. So that's like shorts and like this year we started with a new jersey, but so they wear like a hat and a jersey, and it's like our kind of a casual uniform. We have a football uniform, which is like part of the contest uniform, but then we have like the Westlake W like kind of dry fit shirt that goes with it. It kind of looks more like a college marching band. They still wear the hat and not the shako. And then we have the contest uniform, which is what with the leopard print and the shako and the plume and, you know, the full regalia, if you will. But so every time that we perform, the kids have a call time where they have to be here, and then they get ready, and then they have an inspection. And so the leadership team, the students, like the tilt members here, go through, and there's a Google Doc, and it's by section. So like all the flutes line up, and the flute section leaders go through, and they make sure they have all the pieces to their uniform. They have their water jug full. Their hair has to be done a certain way when they're in contest uniform. And it goes through the whole list. They have to have their instrument. It's just like a way to make sure before we get on the bus to go that everybody has what they're supposed to have, so we don't get like halfway there and then some.
I forgot.
Yeah. And there is still some of that. It's high school kids, and but it just helps with accountability. And so we do the inspection process every time we perform. Like even like last week where we performed in prelims and they had a break in the middle of the day, and then they had a finals performance. They had a second call time. In addition to that, when we get home, when we're using the uniform, not the pep uniform, because they keep those items, you know, but the school like band uniform and the football uniform stays here, and they have to check it in. So we have a uniform crew, and each kid is like assigned a slot number with their rack, and we have like, you know, 5 or 6 uniform racks, and so you're number 200, and that's on rack 5 or whatever. And so they come in and they line up, and we make them hang up their pants a specific way, and it has to be in a certain order.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all every detail, and a part of that is so that they're teenagers and they would just wad it up, and it would be a sweaty mess in the bottom of the bag, and they would wear it Friday night, and then it would be a mess on Saturday when we go to BOA or whatever. But also the uniforms are quite expensive, so it helps them last longer because they're taken care of. But so like with all the pieces and parts to our uniform, they have a shako wrap, they have the hip cape, they have the performance top. They have the jacket. On the jacket, there's a lapel piece that's Velcroed on. And then they have the pants. And then they have socks and marching shoes and their shako. So it's lots of pieces. And so when they check in with their uniform person, they go through a checklist. No, let me see this. And like we tell them, like your shako has to be in the front of the bag so it doesn't wrinkle. Your pants when you hang it over the bus seat. Like we try to think through literally every detail. And the kids are great about it. Like the uniform crew, they'll be like, nope, that's not it. And we tell them if you're not ready to check in, you have to get out of line and go fix it and get in the back of the line. So the kids are motivated to have it right so they can go home when they check in. But we go through that process every single time we perform.
How often are the uniforms cleaned?
It really is weather dependent, honestly. Like, you know, like, I mean, it's Texas, so it's hot. But like even now, right now at this time of year, it's normally not 100 degrees. Like it is literally 100 degrees today. So when it's hot like this and we wear the uniforms, we'll wash them. And that's one of the things this kind of evolved in marching band. Like back when I marched eons ago, we had like wool uniforms that had to be dry cleaned. And so the uniforms now are machine washable. And so we can like wash those and do that fairly regularly, like especially the pants. We don't really do that with the coats, even though we could, because there's like the buttons and the different fabrics and stuff. So we'll send the jackets out to be dry cleaned. I think last season we did 2 cleanings during the season, and then like a final cleaning like once we turned everything in after like the football season was finally wrapped up in December.
But with the constantly changing uniforms now to where they sort of match the theme of the show, what happens to the pieces from last year that no longer kind of fit on the, with the show?
Yeah, like, so we have to buy that stuff. So when we bought this set of uniforms is literally we only wore them last year for the first time. So we bought like kind of a generic set, if you will. And that was actually what we wore last year because it worked. That blue sparkly stuff that was on the hip cape, that's what we would wear just like, because it's like Westlake blue and it looks really nice with the gray. So we didn't have to buy anything specifically extra last year when we were doing Nuvo. This year we bought the hip capes and the performance tops. So that will just go away. The performance top part is something that could potentially be sold. The hip cape is more specific because it really is like custom made to fit our jackets and the cut and where the Velcro is sewn into them. But the performance top is literally just like a crop top shirt that goes underneath bib. So if somebody else was doing like a jungle show or a leopard show or something, and they were looking to purchase, like our sizes are customized too. Like when we come in registration day and all that stuff, and we do uniform fittings during summer band, the kids all try on sizer sets. And so we order male and female specific sizes so that it's very form fitting. But we could potentially sell that whole lot of those, but we haven't had these uniforms long enough to even kind of explore that to its potential.
So we have music parts assigned. In my mind, you've mentioned that you do a lot of assigning of music, and
I'm the data guy. Like I jokingly call myself like the MacGyver of band directors, and part of that's because of, like I was talking about, being in North Carolina, and I was the only band director, so I didn't have like 3 assistant band directors to make sure that this was done and the facilities were booked and the lights were going to be on in the stadium. I had to do all of that, and I didn't have a Miss Taylor, like fine arts director, and she's like amazing. So I say it like that, MacGyver, like literally, like just plugging holes to keep the boat from sinking. That's what it felt like when I was doing it by myself. I try to do that at Westlake too. Like if I see something that needs attention, I do. But the music part of the time is really not mine. It's really more driven by what band the kids place in. So all the kids audition back in May, and we use that to place them. And we currently have 3 concert bands. We have had 4 in the past. The numbers kind of dictate that, and we're close. We're right on the bubble of being able to have the 4th band again. But the wind ensemble kids generally are always going to be on first part. That's like the highest parts for like the brass parts and the clarinets and stuff like that. And then the symphonic band, which is our 2nd band, has maybe a handful of kids that might be on first part if they're like the top players in that band, and then mostly second parts. And then the concert band or some of the bottom of symphonic band might start where the third parts happen. And not every instrument that we write for, like the baritones, for instance, they only have 1 baritone part. But we do have like a low brass 1, a low brass 2, and a low brass 3. So we group it that way. But like not every instrument has 2 or 3 parts. It just kind of depends. Like the flutes, they all have the same part. It's just flute. But that's basically dictated by what band they place in. So if they're in wind ensemble first, and then symphonic band 2nd, and concert band 3rd, as a general rule. But there's a little variance there.
you're in charge of the numbers and the numbers of kids on the buses and letting the people that feed the kids on the buses know how many people are there and who's sick. And
Yes.
you do all of the attendance for everything.
Yeah, so I do, like during marching band season, I do all the grades for all 200 plus kids. I do attendance for marching band rehearsals, performances, and I do the stuff with I coordinate with the bird feeders about that, like who's going to be out and if there's a kid that's leaving early after halftime because they're going to take the SAT, so they're not going to ride the bus home from an away game, stuff like that. So, like I said, it's all like the MacGyver stuff. I look at my job as what can I do to remove obstacles from the kids being successful? How can I make us be more efficient? The more efficient we are, the better we're going to be. And how we get on and out the field with the props, how we do our uniforms, how accurate we are with our attendance, all of those things. I have like that servant mentality, I guess. Like I just literally try to seek out what can I do here. Oh, like just last week, like one of the drum major carts, like the wheel was flat and they use it to pull it to warm up and nobody told me. And I like saw that the tire was flat. I was like, guys, you should have told me. And they're like, we didn't want to bother you, Mr. Pearson. Well, like, so I was like, I'm going to fix that. So I like ordered a set of wheels off of Amazon and like I replaced the cart, the wheels on the cart, stuff like that.
I look at your job like this. What can I do to make Mr. Turpin look really good?
If he looks really good, we look really good. The kids look really good. It makes all of us look really good. So, yeah, I just want to remove obstacles. So all those little tasks like that. But yeah, doing the grades it's a lot, but it is something that can take that off of Mr. Byers and Mr. Turpin's plate because I'm really good and really organized with data management. And so like I don't mind doing it because it frees them up to focus on filling in the show and all the other things they need to do to help the band get better.
You freely take the kid hate.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But they know, they come talk to me, we fix stuff. If I make mistakes too. But yeah.
I want to know, during rehearsals, what is your main concern?
It varies. So, like, at this point in the season where we are now, I actually get out there and do more of like the band directory part, if you want to call it that, where it's like actually helping the kids get better at music and marching. Early on, it's logistics and like getting all the processes in place to help us have the efficiency I was talking about. And then like right leading up to the contest at the beginning of the season, the props. And like I assign all the way that we get on the field, that's all me. Like which kids move what props, and that's all dictated by where they start the show. So there's not some kid setting the prop over here and having to go all the way across the field to get behind the other prop. So I'm looking at the drill and assigning that, and that all had to happen. So I'm planning all that out, and then in the process of like the stage, like getting the stage exactly where it needs to be, so that we could get those leaves on there and all of that. So there's a lot of that going on. Then it is like, how are we going to fit all the percussion equipment in the shed? And me and Mr. Armini are like, we don't have enough room because we added a marimba this year. And so we're trying to figure out what we can move around in there. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like that. And little behind the scenes stuff, like we use the generator every day, and that powers the sound equipment and the front ensemble. So like we have to get gas for it, and so we have a code at transportation where I can go fill the gas cans up, and like we drive the gators down to the field for rehearsal, and so somebody has to fill those up. I do stuff like that. But so it changes later in the year when everything's kind of running and they know what to do. I can actually get out there and help the band more. At the beginning, I'm doing all the other stuff.
See, I told you at the beginning. It was just kind of everything.
You did tell me that. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, the important questions.
All right, what we got?
Well, so what do you do to entertain yourself on the long drives, or do you always have to drive and that's kind of what takes up your brain space?
Well, this year, when we went to Atascocita, I got to ride the bus. And when we went to Prosper, I did that because we didn't take props and stuff. So it was just the semi. But other than that, I'm normally driving something, whether it's Big Blue or a box truck or something, because I'm tied in with that and coordinating with the parents on load in and load out and all that. So it just helps being there and making sure there's like somebody there that has like a plan and meeting them and that kind of stuff. But what I do to pass the time, literally the way to Tascocita, I had my laptop out and I was updating grades.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a nerd like that. The part of my brain won't stop working until the week is over. And for me, like I was saying, I do all the grades. I won't leave the week until I have my grades updated, because I want the kids to know where they are, like attendance grades, like pass off grades, color day grades. But it also helps my brain know like that's done and I can move to the next chapter. So that's what I was doing on the bus on all the games the first 3 weeks.
Okay. I've been asked to ask you about the box truck and the low-hanging limb.
Oh yeah, there was the incident.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So of course, you know, like when you get like something new and shiny, it has to happen then. So we had like this kind of old, clunky, dilapidated box truck, and we got a new one with the bond, and it was like, man, this is nice. It has cruise control, the air condition works, like it was. And so when they were building the Lotus props last year, I went to pick them up, and it was in one of the neighborhoods here. And, you know, we have those beautiful, like, live oak trees that do all the crazy things. And I was driving, and one of those limbs was a little bit lower than anticipated. And so, yeah, I took out a giant limb, and it damaged the box truck that had literally, like, 1,000 miles on it. It was brand new. I mean, we only had it in the district for, like, 2 weeks. But it's safe to say, after that incident, I had to be retrained officially by the district, and I have been cleared to operate the box truck since then.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
Retrained.
Yeah.
Oh,
You should have just told them that limb came at me.
Yeah.
I was just driving along that limb attacked
The
me.
district now has a policy that we don't take district vehicles into residential neighborhoods as a result of Mr.
That's
Pearson.
pretty awesome.
So I have
because
left my mark
you have
on
left your
Eanes
mark.
Independent School District.
That's great.
So, what is your favorite band meal?
Well, I'm also Mr. Armini spoiled it because he said salad, but like every time that the band parents feed the band, they really spoil us. They do. They'll say like, "Hey, we're gonna get stuff from Jason's Deli or Chick-fil-A or whatever," and they'll ask us if we want something different than what the kids want. And so I always find a salad. But my favorite one is definitely Jason's Deli. They have like great salads. So I would say a Jason's Deli salad hits the spot on band meal days.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just say, like we talked about my past and all this other stuff, like I feel like so lucky to do what I do now. It was years like of wanting to be in a place like Westlake at a band that functions like this. So I guess if there's anybody out there that's listening, the hard work that I put into my career and all of that, I couldn't have done it without my wife and my family's support. And she's been like a rock for me there, like letting me chase my dreams, so to speak. But to just tell like the other band directors that may not be in 6A Texas competitive band like where we are here at Westlake, so blessed, that just not to give up. Like if you stick with it and you put your nose to the grindstone, you can find your spot. It took me, I mean, you're 21 and it took me until 3 years ago to get to a Westlake, but it's been incredible, and I just want people not to give up on their dreams. I guess that would be what I say.
Thank you.
I think that's true in any field.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, just keep after it.
Yeah,
Tenacious, that's the word from the Gilded Age.
for sure.
Thank you for talking to us today. Again, we spent a lot of time, and thanks for putting up with us and our craziness here with our podcast. We love it. Listeners, if there is anything that you still want to hear from Mr. Pearson that maybe we didn't talk about today, please make sure you email us at fansoftheband.whs@yahoo.com. We'd love to hear from you. I guess that's a wrap for this episode with Mr. Pearson. And listeners, let's start taking a look at all the props on the field. And also, I think we need to make sure we congratulate bands when they get off the field in their 2 minutes.
That's right. Touchdown!
Woohoo! We'll see you soon.